On a previous video, I covered everything you needed to know to get into the Trails series, but there is another Nihon Falcom franchise that I consider worth talking about, and that is, well, Ys. And with it celebrating its 35th anniversary last year and a brand new game coming in 2023, it's the perfect time to talk about it. As before, I'll keep it short and break it down into a few parts to make the video easier to navigate. Instead of retreading old ground in terms of Nihon Falcom's history, let's have Past Lawful Geek from the Trails video take care of this. Take it away, Past Me.
Nihon Falcom is a small studio, but it's got decades of experience, and is, along with other companies, such as Squaresoft and Enix, now Square Enix, one of the pioneers of the JRPG genre. And their 1984 game Dragon Slayer is the progenitor of the action RPG, laying down the foundations for the genre as we know it even today.
Thank you, Past Me. First title in the Ys series, Ancient Ys Vanished, was originally conceived as a single game, but released in two parts, subtitled Omen and Final Chapter, or better known as Ys 1 and 2, 1 year apart from each other in 1987 and 88 respectively. From there, a third game was made titled Ys 3 Wanderers from Ys. Ys 4 was then, very curiously, given to two different companies and they each created their own version of it, 1993's Ys 4 Mask of the Sun and Ys 4 Dawn of Ys, the latter having so many changes in plot and canon that it's considered an alternate universe altogether. After Ys 5, Lost Kefin, Kingdom of Sand, released in 1995, the series went dormant, and in 2003, after 8 years of silence, things kicked off again and haven't stopped since, with Falcom not only releasing new entries Ys 6 to 9, and soon a 10th title in 2023, Ys 10 Nordics, but also remaking Ys 3 and 4 as The Oath in Felghana and Memories of Celceta respectively, and creating a prequel to the first two games with Ys Origin, not to mention re-releasing Ys 1 and 2 across a multitude of systems over the years. Aside from Ys Origin, which takes place 700 years before the events of Ys 1 and has a completely different cast of characters, Ys games are about the travels, mostly shipwrecks, and adventures of red-haired Adol Christian, this world's first and foremost adventurer. Adol's travels have been visiting exotic locales and interacting and befriending all manner of cultures and civilizations, often dealing with the remnants of an ancient civilization of winged beings called the Eldil, and fighting anything from long-sealed ancient AI, eldritch monstrosities, or some form of metaphysical concept given flesh. Yeah, some of Adol's adventures can get really weird. Ys takes place primarily on the continent of Eresia, which is an alternate version of our Eurasia, though so far focusing on Europe for the most part, with direct conversions of certain countries and territories. For example, Hispani is Spain, Roman for Rome, particularly the Roman Empire, Gilia for Gaul, mostly just France though, Garman for Germany, and so on. There is another continent called Atlas, which is a mix of America and Atlantis, particularly in that it sank to the bottom of the ocean. Ys, the mythical city in the game, is in fact inspired by a French mythical city of the same name that was swallowed by the ocean while the one in the game rose up to the skies. Funny thing is, for a series called Ys, only 3 games actually have anything to do with the place, those being Ys 1, 2, and Origin, and of these, only Ys 2 takes place in the actual land of Ys. The other 2 take place in Asteria, a small island in Gilia where Ys once stood before floating off into the sky. Ys, The Oath in Felghana, takes place somewhere between Gilia and Garman in the aforementioned Felghana. Ys, Memories of Celceta, happens in Hispani, in the Great Forest of Celceta. Ys 5, the one in the series that I'm desperate for them to remake, takes place in Afroka, in the Shala Desert, this world's Sahara. Remember that sunken Atlas continent I mentioned? Well, Ys 6, the Ark of Napishtim, is all about that place and the Bermuda Triangle-like Canaan Islands. Ys 7 takes Adol back to Afroka, to the nation of Altago with its mysterious dragon energy. In Ys 8, Lacrimosa of Dana, Adol shipwrecks and becomes trapped in the Isle of Seiren, off the coast of Greek, and in Ys 9, we return to a Roman-occupied Gilia, to the prison city of Balduc, which is more or less Paris. The upcoming Ys 10 Nordics will take Adol somewhere north of the Eresia continent. While the Trails series is all about the great story arcs, wonderful NPCs, and fascinating characters, Ys, being the flagship action-adventure RPG, it's all about the action gameplay and wondrous locales. That's not to say the plotlines or the characters aren't good or that they're shallow, far from it. The plotlines in Ys are wonderfully complex, and solving the mystery of what is happening in the story helps both push you forward and carry the momentum all the way to the end. And while Adol might not be the deepest of characters, the supporting cast definitely is, often having complex relationships that weave in and out of the main plot, often through personal relationships with at least one person up to no good. These characters help anchor you and make some of the parts of the story feel more personal and engaging, especially in Ys 8 and 9, which have an element of forming a community with a supporting cast of NPCs. Having said this, Ys is more about the world you're exploring and the things you do in it. It's about fighting your way through beautiful beaches, snow-covered mountains, wondrous high-tech ruins of a bygone age, and engaging massive mythical creatures with just your sword, your shield, and whatever items or relics you've discovered along the way. It's about the journey, about finding yourself in a new world in the middle of a crisis and saying, okay, let's get to the bottom of this. In essence, it's about adventure. King in Ys is gameplay, and to talk about that, I'll have to break it down in what I call the 3 eras of the Ys series. For the record, I'm basing this on the readily available versions of the games, the ones I have personal experience with, so not including the Super Famicom Ys 3, the original releases of Ys 4, or either version of Ys 5. The first era with Ys 1 and 2 is all about that bump system, where you literally bump into enemies. If you hit them head on, you also get damaged, but if you hit them slightly off center, it's them who take all the damage. It's a simple system, but it's so satisfying, since you can get into something of a zone, where you're just running around the place, bashing into enemies, never stopping, just grooving to the amazing soundtrack. It also means that if you need to grind out some levels, it's not an unpleasant experience. Ys 2 also adds some magic spells and such, but the bump system is still the star of the show. The second era of Ys is a 2D sprite in 3D environment era for Ys Origin, Oath and Folgana, and Ys 6. These games are top-down, very fast hack-and-slash wonders. In some you can use items, in others items are just enemy drops that give you instant healing or buffs. An adult can build a special meter that enables a boost mode for extra damage and speed. This generation of Ys games is for me the toughest, with some truly breathtaking lightning-fast encounters that will definitely challenge you. The third era of Ys is the one that started with Ys 7 and is present up to Ys 9, which is the party era. In these games you have party members that deal specific types of damage, such as slashing or piercing, that certain enemies are weak to. These games replace the special boost mode with a super powerful special attack, and added dodge rolls and blocks with special rewards if you pull them off at the last second. Lastly, this era introduced special combat skills that develop as you fight, and then you can level them up by using them. I find this era really fun and engaging, especially as you can combine the different skills and party members to some really spectacular combos. Having said so, I find this to be the easiest and most accessible of the eras, which is not a bad thing. There are of course common elements like different pieces of armor, weapons, and ability enhancing relics that give you elemental attacks, spells, and even new traversal options, similar to the ones you'd find in the typical Metroidvania. They give you double jump, faster running speed, and even water breathing. These items open new paths to both required and optional content. Gameplay might be king, but the other part of the adventure are the places you visit, and they have always been gorgeous. From the 2D era to the modern games, the visuals in Ys draw you into this wondrous world and often convey elements of backstory just with visuals alone, not to mention adding challenges to spice up the gameplay, such as the varied biomes contained within the floors of Tharm Tower, with each affecting movement and combat in unexpected ways. Sometimes though, the visuals are there just for you to gawk at, which is especially true in the Solseta remake, Ys 8 and 9. These have an added focus and exploration and filling out the map, and part of the joy is finding landmarks in the form of breathtaking vistas, amazing feats of architecture, or just natural marvels. I mentioned vibing to the soundtrack before, and it's because the music in Ys is just phenomenal. From upbeat action themes to the intense ominous tracks of the big reveal and boss fights, these are games with one memorable theme after another. Solomon's Temple in Ys 2, Genesis Beyond the Beginning in Ys Origin, Valentine's Castle in Ys the Oath and Folgana, Sunshine Coastline in Ys 8, and Drumming in the Greenwald in Ys 9 are just some of the outstanding pieces composed for these games by Falcom Sound Team JDK. Give them a listen, they'll blow your mind. That's the beauty of Ys. They're very much standalone games. Even Ys Origin, a prequel to the first game, is perfectly playable with no prior knowledge. I know because that was my starting point, and I fell in love with the world, and that made me go check out the other titles. There are a couple of games with some callbacks, but they're more a case of hey, it's that person, or hey, it's that monster, which is a nice surprise if you played the game where they first appeared, but it's nothing critical to the plot. Not even in Ys 9, which has an abundance of references. And hey, if you play the later titles first and then go back, guess what? You'll have the same experience, so you don't lose anything. Ys celebrated its 35th anniversary last year, and 2 new games are releasing in 2023, Ys 10 Nordics and a remaster of the Oath and Folgana. So far, nothing has been said of their localization, but it's sure to happen within this year or the next. It just means you have plenty of time to go play every Ys out there. I promise you'll love every minute of Adol's bizarre, shipwrecking adventures. If you liked this video, drop me a like and consider pressing that subscribe button. And please let me know in the comment if you'd like to see more Ys or Trails content. I have some plans, They can always change based on what you tell me. With that, I have nothing further to say except, well, happy trails.